Hi there, and welcome to the Being Human Hidden Depths podcast by Collaboration Global. My name is Jill Tiny, and I am flexing my learning skills today because I know that we are going to learn an awful lot from this gentleman that we have on the podcast today. One of our newer members, Mr. Howard Berg. Howard, thank you for coming along to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. As people can tell from the accent, we're not in the same room because we're different sides of the pond. Howard originated from good old New York, as they say.
Brooklyn.
But I've just found out, I'm slightly jealous, that Howard is now in Florida. That was Kissimmee was the name of the place I was trying to think of earlier, Howard. Kissimmee Old Town. That was good fun. So in sunny Florida with your lovely polo shirt on, so you're fully off to play a game of golf later. I'm just building the picture in my mind. I want to take you on a little journey, Howard, to when you were younger. I've heard this story on some of the other clips.
This hypnosis. I want you to relax.
Follow my eyes and look into my eyes. I wonder, that's interesting. Can you hypnotize somebody through Zoom when you're not? I guess you can probably. Can I take you back to early days? This is one of the questions I've stolen from Simon Sinek.
Swimming.
And what I'd like you to describe is one of your happiest memories. Now, I know growing up in New York wasn't the happiest of times because of the situation of what it was at that time. But what was one of your happiest memories when you were, say, 6 or 7? What comes flooding back to you when I ask you to recall a happy memory?
Oh, actually, I do have one. I lived across the street from the Brooklyn Children's Museum, which was a science museum. And when I was 5, I was a tour guide unofficially. You couldn't do that today. Back then, it was like, be home for supper, and you just left. If you did that today, you go to jail. But I go to the museum and I pick random people to ask if they wanted me to tour them around the museum. Again, today that would be like, what, are you kidding me? But I did. And I showed them all the science. And one of the rooms was the Leonardo da Vinci room. It was one of my early idols, Da Vinci, Einstein. Those are my, everyone else was interested in Mickey Mantle, and I was looking at Da Vinci and Einstein. Wow. And they didn't allow kids in that room, but they let me in because I was a tour guide. And they had astronomy. They had a planetarium in one of the buildings, and I went every Saturday. Again, they didn't let young people in, but they let me in. And after about 3 or 4 months, I knew all the shows, and I was helping do the planetarium shows when I was about 5 or 6. And I remember that a lot. And I remember once, I was like 5, I discovered the phases of the moon. I thought it was a major discovery. And I was like, did you know the moon changes? It's not the same. I didn't realize anyone else was aware of it. But I was 5 years old. So they showed me a model of the moon and the earth and the sun and showed me how the phases were. And that was really, and I also got to see Edison's original phonograph. They had one with the wax cylinder. With the Mary Had a Little Lamb on it. So those were and they had a library where I spent a lot of time learning to read. So that was really my happy place, the Science Museum.
Oh gosh, so were you considered a bit of a genius back in those days? Were you like an extraordinary child that like wanted to learn, or were your friends similar?
I was considered a child.
You've seen and not
heard. So that it has its. What my problem was, I probably had the intellect of an adult when I was 7 and the emotions of a 3-year-old. So there was an imbalance there. I had no social skills because I was a kid. So it was awkward, because I understood things my parents couldn't even begin. I studied theory of relativity when I was 8, and I had some ideas about it. And when I was in the Alabama, I was at the Strategic Defense Command, the people doing Star Wars, and they're physicists. And I said, I had some ideas when I was little, and I never had an opportunity to ask anyone if there's any validity to them. So I went through my ideas, and they looked at me and said, 5 of your ideas won Nobel Prizes.
No.
But you have to actually prove it. Unfortunately, get a Nobel Prize, you can't just have a good idea. They actually want you to do something with it to show it's right. But at 5 years old, I didn't have much of a lab, and but it made me feel good that at least my mind was in the right place, that I was thinking differently. And of course, when I talk about it with kids my age, they thought I was nuts, which didn't help social life at all, because they didn't understand what I was saying. I was talking about the multiverse and things like, black holes and alternate time and different frames of reference and things like, which a lot of people know now, but we're talking 1957,
Wow.
1958, and
So
most
now,
8-year-olds weren't really in sync with that. So it was awkward because I didn't have a lot of people to talk to my own age that I could relate to, because I had a different mindset than they did. They were like, who won the World Series? And who cares?
yeah.
Who cares about someone hitting a ball with a piece of wood? I says, isn't it more interesting to talk about the nature of reality and consciousness
And
and
they all went,
why are we here and what's the meaning of life, and
yeah.
is there a purpose to any of this? And
So,
I actually found the answers to those questions when I was older, so I actually can answer them now, but it took a long time.
So nowadays, if we had a child of that age, 6 or 7, having those kind of conversations, we'd be going, neurodiverse. There's other things going on here. And we would have be looking at it in a different way. But like you say, back in the 50s and 60s, it was like, oh, troublemaker, go and sit in your
In the projects of Brooklyn, you get beat up. Pretty much you get beaten. I mean, I've been robbed over 100 times. I had knives in my throat, and I got hit with baseball bats. My dad was pistol whipped. I'll put it in perspective. We moved when they raped an 88-year-old man. So it was not a comfortable place to grow up, especially if your mind was in that space. That wasn't where people were communicating. It was more like the Jets and the Sharks from West Side Story. I met Bernardo. He had a knife, and he wasn't dancing or smiling.
I'll bet. No. I cannot imagine what that must have been like. I mean, I grew up in the East End of London, so we have some commonalities there, but until I was about 16, I didn't come across anything like that. I was in sort of a Pollyanna fairy tale land where everyone loved everybody and it was great. I know in reality that's not the case, because the Cray twins didn't live too far away from us, and the rest of the gangs that were around in the East End of London in the 60s. But I was oblivious to that, thank goodness.
One of my neighbor's hobbies was killing people. He would drive around the neighborhood and shoot people at random because he enjoyed it. So, I mean, that gives you an idea of where I grew up in. It was like a war zone without the war zone. I got beat up by the police.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they said I was the head of a Puerto Rican street gang. I said, I'm not Puerto Rican and I'm not in the gang, but they wanted me to tell them who was in the gang. And obviously I didn't know. So the cops started punching and kicking me because I wasn't cooperating. And I'm like, who do I call? The police?
No.
Hello, the police are beating me up.
Wow.
And I was like 14 years old, and they were just punching and kicking me for no reason. And I mean, that's just, it's not a great way to grow up when even the police are gonna assault you.
Well, it gives a bit of perspective that this police culture, damaged culture, has been around for such a long time. You always get the illusion from a distance that it's only recently, or it's only these things, but it's been going on for a long, long time, hasn't it? And
yeah, well, fortunately, what it did is it helped me develop a superpower, because the safest place in my neighborhood was the library. No gang kid would ever go to the library for any reason whatsoever. So I went a lot, and I had college reading when I was 11.
Wow.
And I was reading 3,000 words a minute before I learned to read fast. That was my baseline, where the norm is 200 words a minute. So I was 15 times faster than normal before I learned how to go quicker.
So you had to kind of suss that, oh, not everybody can read this fast. So how come I can read this fast? And then you had to go back and work out.
People would stare at me because my top speed, I go a page and a half a second. And people say, you're not reading. And I was learning it. I did a 4-year psych program in 1 year in college. I went to college when I was 17. I majored in biology. And in my second half of my junior year, I got interested in psychobiology, not psychotic biology. That's Frankenstein. Psychobiology is the biology of behavior.
Yeah.
And the dean said, well, you haven't had any courses in psychology. You only have 1 year left. You'll have to do a 4-year program in 1 year and finish the bio program at the same time. He said, you have to take 6 science courses, 2 4-hour labs, and I had 3 jobs. I was working 18 hours a week and at different jobs on campus. And he said, you're not smart enough.
Whoa.
And I realized they never taught me how to learn in school. They tell you what to learn, why to learn, what will happen when you don't learn, but not how you hear a song on the radio once, you never forget it. You read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and you don't know any habits the next day. I said, there's gotta be a way to learn things that matter, the way you learn songs. So I got up to 80 pages a minute. I did the psych program in 1 year. I took the graduate record exam, which is like an SAT for graduate school in biology. So I reviewed 48 books in 3 nights, like biochemistry, genetics, cell physiology. I got 3 questions wrong, so I was in the 99th percentile. I got an 800. So it's not just that you're reading quickly, but you're learning at a very high level and extremely technical material. And then I was like, can I teach this? I had a school that had 11-year-olds in college getting A's in a week consistently. I trained the U.S. Special Forces at Fort Bragg, the Royal Thai Army in Bangkok. I did a double-blind study and found the average person could go 100 to 400% faster in 4 hours with very good comprehension.
Wow.
And that's what I've been doing, is teaching these different learning skills, like writing. My last book I wrote in 5 hours, and then I made a program on how to write a book in a day, which anyone could do. It's really not hard. It's like anything else. If you have a system that works and you learn you just replicate the system, it's going to give you the same outcome. So that's basically what I've been doing.
This is what I love, is that you have discovered this ability through necessity because of where you grew up, how you discovered learning in the first place, and then working out how to replicate it for other people. I remember going back a way when I was doing my teacher training, one of the sessions that was a real mind opener for me, eye opener and mind opener, was we were all given a paragraph to read. So just read it to yourself, just read the paragraph. So I'm trying to read it through and sort of sat back and waiting for everyone else to catch up. But okay, fair enough, they're reading, maybe they understand. Maybe I need to understand it better. But this seems to be a bit more complicated. I need to read this again in case I've misread what I thought I got it, that's okay. So he then said, right, now I want you to read it and I want you to understand how you're reading it. I was like, what now? He said, what I want to find out is how you're reading it. Are you reading it and hearing the author speak? Are you reading it and hearing yourself speak? Are you reading it and seeing images? Are you reading it and hearing sounds? And all these different ways. There were about 15 people in the room. We all read it again. And I thought everybody could hear the author reading it to me, which is how I retain it, because if they're saying something interesting to me, it stays put. And that's how I can read quite quickly, because I can skip the bits when people are boring. It's like, come on, get to the point, what you're saying. Yeah, okay, got it. But every single person, this is what was weird, every single person had read and understood that paragraph in a different way. There was 2 people that had the same way of absorbing that information.
Interesting.
I was like, I just assumed, like most people do, that everyone does it the same as me. And so what I love about what you're doing now, Howard, is that you are taking people to go, hey, do it this way, because that's the way you've always done it, but I can do it better for you. I can help you to do it even faster. And speed isn't always the optimum thing, because for me, to open a book and to read that page, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, whatever, that's a joy. If I lose a day in that joy, I'm very happy. If I absorb it so that my whole being is in that book, that's good. I wouldn't want to do it in 10 minutes because I've missed out on the absorption of that book. Although you'd probably tell me I'd still get that information. But time is short and time is precious. So to be able to do it, and I've seen you do it when you read a book, please, can you demonstrate? I know it's not great for a podcast,
Well,
but
basically it's a page and a half a second. And there's hundreds of videos on YouTube of me doing it. I can't hold the book up to the camera and show it to you because I need my hands free.
right.
But you're correct. Comprehension is more important than speed. Nobody really wants to read faster. They want to learn faster. So there's like three big problems that I identified. This is in almost everything people are doing that involves teaching or creating a program or writing a book. And I'll go through the three things. The first one is the language itself. Are they communicating to the audience and using verbiage that is on their reading level and their understanding, their worldview, rather than the writer? So you're an expert and they aren't. And if you're using words and terms that aren't in their vocabulary, you're not teaching them anything. You're just showing them, a lot of words they never heard of before. Then college is a lot like that, where they throw a lot of words at you that nobody has a clue what they're telling you except the person talking. And that's poor teaching because you don't have any comprehension of what they're telling you. They think, look how smart I am. What they're really saying is, I don't care whether you learn this or not. And then the second flaw is, will they remember it when they need to use it? So we often write books or create programs, but what are you doing to make it memorable so they can recall and use it when they need it? So a good example is when people tell you something, and when you get home, you don't remember what they told you and it didn't work. And what makes you think it's any different when you teach or tell someone something? If you don't tell them how to retain it and recall it later, then the information will disappear just like it did. And the last one is emotional intelligence. If you're in the wrong state, even with the right information, you won't perform very well. So if I teach you to drive and you're ready for your road test and you failed the test, I say, why did you fail? I got nervous. It was a test. What if I didn't just teach driving, but how to stay calm during the test? Or for someone learning how to stay calm during an exam, or how to do public speaking without getting tense or nervous, the performance would go up. And so a lot of the problems people are having with programs and teaching is they're in the wrong frame of mind to properly use the information. And you need to know what frame they need to be in and how to create it and how to eliminate frames that, like anxiety, that can interfere with performance. And those are some of the things I do. And I could demonstrate some of them today as we go along. So I won't just say what you need to do, but kind of give you something more concrete to go with.
Well, that's lovely, isn't it? Because there'll be people that are listening to this that will think, well, okay, well, where do I start? How do I begin? What's the first thing? And it's just understanding that you want to take that information on board. And I think what you just said, I hadn't kind of acknowledged that in my head before. I assumed it was a doing thing, but emotional intelligence is about a being, isn't it? And understanding that, you've got to be in the right state of mind. So, for example, I'm going to be doing a TED Talk soon, TEDx, and we've been deciding on what order to go in, the people that are doing the talks. And most people are like, oh, let me go first and get it over and done with. And I'm like, no, I want to go last. So people aren't going to forget what I say. They're not going to have to think about, all the others can be forgotten, I don't mind, but they're going to remember what I have to say. So I know that I'm not going to get nervous before that, because what I've got to say is bigger than me. So it's too important for me to mess it up. And it's something that is like out there for me to do. And I'm just the vehicle to do it. So I know I'm not going to get nervous. So I can be last. It's not a problem. But there are so many people that make the assumption, oh, I'm going to be so nervous. But as you say, if you have the emotional intelligence, you can choose. You can make those choices. So, for example, how would you say, if somebody's going to do a talk now, that would be a great tip for us now. If somebody's going to do a talk and not be nervous, what would be your advice?
Well, there's a few things. For me, when I'm talking, like we're talking now, We talk all day. We talk to people everywhere we go. Just imagine you're having a normal conversation with another person who's interested in what you have to say. And there's nothing different about it. There's just a few more people listening. It's no big deal. It's a camera. So what?
Yeah.
You know, the conversation is the conversation. Don't think of it as being anything other than what you normally would do. And if you focus on just talking, saying what's on your mind, then you're right. I was just going to say one thing about EQ. That's why the military had me, because if they're getting shot at and they've been up for 4 days with no sleep, if they don't remember their training, they could get killed.
Yeah.
So keeping them in a positive state with no sleep so they can remember their training is critical. With us, it's like you had a bad day. With them, they go home in a body bag. So it was even more urgent to show them how to create states. In fact, I could show you how to do that if you'd like.
Absolutely. Yes, please.
So the state I'll teach you is what I taught them, how to wake up. Okay, a lot of us we'll take a long exam and then you get tired and it's like, I just want to go home now. That's very true of many students taking their SATs or one of those tests. It's like, I don't care anymore. I just want to go home. And another problem is maybe you work days and you go into classes at night for a degree and you're tired and the teacher's boring as hell. And you find yourself falling asleep because one, you don't care what they're teaching you, and two, they teach very poorly and you're falling asleep. So how do you wake up? So it's important. So I'm going to show you, we know the left side of the brain controls the right and the right, the left. So I want you to do this with me. Now, ideally you should stand, but we have microphones. So if we stand up, one, people will look at our navels, and two, you won't be able to hear us because the microphones will be too far away. But for those watching, stand up. It's better.
Yeah.
Take your left hand and touch your right shoulder. You could do that sitting. And take your right hand, touch your left shoulder, alternate. So it's not just the Macarena without music. It's a brain massage because you're using one side and then the other. Now the same motion, but left hand to right knee. And if you're standing, your knee moves. And right hand to left knee.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So both sides of your brain are engaged. And raise your hand up, make a fist with your thumb and your fist like this, and say this like you mean it. I feel great, like you mean it.
I feel great.
Oh, I feel great.
I feel great.
Yes, with passion. I feel great. That's how you'll feel later. Great. Great. We're going to do 3 sets of these at my speed, starting slow. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How do you feel?
I feel great.
Great. Yes. A little faster. Ready?
Whoa, here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How do you feel?
I feel great.
Great. Yes. Now as fast as you can. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How do you feel?
I feel great.
I feel great. Yes. Now, you know what happens when you do this 3 times?
Yeah.
Nothing. Now, you probably would like something. So let me show you how to make that happen. Remember Pavlov, he rang a bell, he fed a dog. He rang a bell. I'm a Rotary president, so that's the Rotary bell. He rang the bell, he fed a dog. Eventually, he rang the bell, the dog drooled. Well, you don't want to drool, but you do want to feel great. So the latest habits studies show it takes 90 days to form a habit. So every day for 90 days, you do slow, medium, fast, and I feel great, yes, at the end. Now you're in an important meeting, but taking a boring test. You don't want to stand up and start tapping your shoulders. People think something's very wrong. You grab your thumb and you say to yourself, I feel great, yes. That's your bell. Did it, you woke up because you stimulated the left, the right, both together. And now I feel great, yes, you go into the state, which is why it's so important to feel it. I was on a show, it was the longest running show in history. Joe Franklin, 50 years, one person.
Wow.
And I was on the last 3 weeks and I said, what's your secret? How did you manage to get the longest running show in history? It's a good question. And he smiled and he said, sincerity. And when you can fake that, you can do anything. And that's no one can fake sincerity for 50 years. No one's that good. So what he's really saying is you got to believe what you're doing. And if you don't believe you feel great, then when you trigger it, you feel the same nothing you felt when you were doing the exercise. So this is one thing. You could do it to relax. You could do it to be creative. You could do it, all these different states that are positive states that can help us succeed in our businesses and our lives. We can create the state ahead of time, create an anchor. That's what this is. That represents the trigger for the state. And we could trigger that state. So if you're getting nervous speaking on stage, which is what you were talking about, you could trigger the relaxation response. If you're getting nervous taking a test, you could trigger the relaxation. If you're getting nervous getting shot at, you could trigger the relaxation response. If you're getting too tired, you could trigger the alertness response. These are all different states, and people need to start thinking about, when I'm teaching something, what's the state we want the person to be in to accomplish this successfully? And what am I doing to generate that state consistently so that they're actually in the state they need to succeed?
That's perfect, because you've just given us different illustrations of how that can be utilized. And it takes me back to that TED talk by Amy Cuddy. I don't know if you've come across Amy. A very intelligent child who then had an accident and had a brain problem, and she had to learn all over again, where it didn't come naturally to her as it had as a child. And so eventually she got to university, which was, she never thought she'd be able to be there, but she felt like she was an imposter because she wasn't as good as she used to be. And the teacher had to kind of give her a talking to, but she realized that her physiology of her body could trick her brain into thinking that she was as good as she needed to be. So she talks about the power pose. She said, and you just, before you need it, you go off somewhere, whether it's a job interview or whether it's, an exam or whatever, and just strike the power pose. And it is that sort of physiology of like, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm better, I can do these things. And again, if you can add the voice to it as well, not always easy if you're in the ladies' toilets, I can imagine, but it's that kind of space where you can be bigger than you are, than you think you can be. And it just kind of gives you that, as you say, that emotional rush to live into what's your possibility. What's the thing that
also works with bears when you're getting charged by a bear.
Is that true? I thought you just had to run faster than the person next to you.
But you're right. What you're doing is creating a state, and it's physiologically driven, and you're triggering the physiology of the state. And it's very, very important to realize that it's not enough to teach people what they need to know, but also how to remember it and how to be in state. I could show you a little memory if you'd like, how to recall.
Well, do you know what? It seems to be the in thing that so many people are giving themselves excuses to not have good memory. It's easy to go, oh, it's the menopause, or, oh, I think I've got a touch of that.
I didn't have that problem.
But so many people go, oh, my parents had Alzheimer's, I'm wondering if I'm getting it. And it's very easy. But as you say, there are ways of doing it. So yes, please give us another top tip.
And I went through menopause pretty fast.
Well, you survived it very well.
I'm going to give you 10 things to remember. I'm not going to show you how, and I don't think you'll do very well. Then I'll show you how, and instantly you'll know them backwards and forwards, effortlessly. You want to remember pole, shoes, tricycle, car, glove, gun, dice, skate, cat, and bowling pins. Can you repeat it backwards?
Bowling pins?
That's about it. And now I'm going to show you how to learn it, and you'll know the whole list in any order you choose effortlessly.
Right.
Now, one of the things we know is you only remember 10% of what you read, but 90% of what you say and do. You're going to say and do this when I ask you, because this isn't a drill. this is a tool. You'll actually use this tool. And another thing we know about memory, which is very, very old from the Greeks, is you take a list you know and you link it to the list you're learning, it takes less time because what you know is hanging in your memory. And what do we do with hangers? We hang things on it. And I'm going to bet everyone watching today can count to 10. I feel very confident that that's not a challenge. So that's a list. We're going to use the numbers from 1 to 10 to learn 10 new things super fast. Are you ready?
Yep.
The number 1 looks like a pole, like a lamp pole or a flagpole. When I say 1, you say pole. 1.
Pole.
Perfect. Make sure you're saying it. You won't learn by watching. 2 is shoes. You have 2 shoes. What's 2?
Shoes.
What's 1?
Pole.
3 is a tricycle. 3 wheels on a tricycle. What's 3?
Tricycle.
2.
Shoes.
1.
Pole.
Getting easier. 4 is a car. There's 4 tires on a car. What's 4?
A car.
Go to 2.
A tricycle.
2.
Shoes.
1.
Pole.
3.
A tricycle.
There
Sorry.
you go. You're learning the system. 5 is a glove. 5 fingers in a glove. What's 5?
A glove.
What's 3?
Tricycle.
What's 1?
A pole.
It's easier and easier. 6 gun. They love them in Texas, like a cowboy. 6 gun. What's 6?
A gun.
4.
Car.
2.
Shoes.
Lucky 7 and dice. Lucky 7. What's 7?
Dice.
5. Giving you a clue.
Glove. I've got my
3.
hands here. 3 is tricycle.
1.
A pole.
Rhymes work. Say 8 skate.
8 skate.
8 skate.
8 skate.
What's 8?
Skate.
6. What did they love in Texas?
A gun.
4.
A car.
2.
Shoes.
How many lives does a cat have?
9.
What's 9?
Cat's lives.
Cat.
Cat.
Cat. 9 is cat. Lucky 7.
Dice.
Dice. 5.
Glove.
3.
Tricycle.
1.
Pole.
Looking for your pictures. 10. How many bowling pins are in an alley?
10.
10 bowling pins. What's
Bowling
10?
pins. 10 bowling pins.
What's 1?
A pole.
2.
Shoes.
3.
Tricycle.
4.
A car.
5.
Gloves.
6. Texas.
Gun.
Lucky 7.
Dice.
8 rhymes with.
Gate.
9 is a.
Cat's lives.
And 10. What game? 10?
Oh,
Game?
bowling. Bowling.
Okay.
Sorry.
Now you just learned how to learn numbers, speed
Oh.
memorize numbers.
Mhm.
Let's say you're in a room in a hotel, it's 314. How many times by the time you go to the lobby, you forgot your room? You
Immediately.
turn the numbers to pictures and make a movie.
Yeah.
3 is a tricycle, 1 is a pole, 4 is a car.
Yeah.
A tricycle hits a pole on a car. Picture that. A tricycle hits a pole on a car. Tricycle, what number?
3.
It's a pole
1.
on a car.
4.
That's your hotel. It's
Yeah.
also pi in geometry,
Mhm.
3.14. So you can use it for math and science and dates, and in business, percentages, due dates, phone numbers.
Yeah.
Turn the number into a picture. The 0 is the 10 bowling pins because there's 10 digits in math, 0 to 9. And you have a digit now, a picture for every digit. And now you make a movie out of the pictures, play the movie back, and you can recall any number you need.
Wow. So when you're reading and you see a date, for example, you're doing that as you go. Wow.
Exactly. And well, that's one thing I'm doing. There's many different systems. There's no one system for everything. Learning a language isn't reading a novel. Reading a novel isn't learning calculus. Calculus isn't the same as learning law. So every subject is different, and people have different aptitudes, backgrounds, and experience. A lawyer is going to learn a law book better than me. Even if I'm very good at reading, they went to law school and they're using it every day. So they have experiences I don't have that I can't draw on, that makes it more meaningful to them because they've seen it in applied situations, or I just have a book.
Yeah,
or
so
a doctor.
There's a difference between learning something and understanding
And
something.
mastery, yes.
And
And
having
so
that.
we all have skills we do better at than others. So there isn't one learning method that works for everyone. So I give them a tool chest. It's, here's all the tools.
Yeah.
Find the tool that's best for you in that subject at that time. It may be a different tool in a different subject,
Yeah.
but it's the tool for you, not my tool.
I
Your
love
tool.
that.
Your, like you said, everyone learns differently. Everyone reads differently.
Howard,
It's got to work with your brain, not my brain.
this is becoming more and more relevant these days, because we are acknowledging that there are, autistic people, ADHD people, variety of so much difference in us, and yet we've all been conditioned into this is how you learn. You sit in the classroom, the teacher talks at you, and you take on the information, you go and you regurgitate it in this way, and that doesn't fit for the majority of the kids in that classroom.
I could give you a story on that.
Yeah.
I had a student in my own school. This girl had third grade reading in the ninth grade, and they put her in special ed, which is basically, you're going to learn how to tie your shoes and button your jacket. And if you go for a career, you'll say, welcome to Walmart. That was what they were preparing her for in life. And she was hysterical, crying. She came to my school. We taught her how to learn. What happened? She got her 4-year degree in college when the kids in her high school she was with finished high school. She was already 4 years ahead. She had an A average, got a full scholarship. She went for a 2-year degree, got an A average, full scholarship to Baylor, A average, the master's at 22. And she was someone who couldn't read or learn. No one teaches learning. And so when the student isn't learning, they blame them instead of finding out why they're not learning and how to fix it. We took the time to analyze her learning style and found out what was missing. It wasn't her intellect. She was brilliant, but her brain was never shown the right way to implement its natural method for learning. Yeah. And when we had an 11-year-old C student who became an English professor at 22. Had a 16-year-old pass the bar in California, and his sister's 15, first-year law student, would be the youngest person in history to pass the bar there. And the 17-year-old brother is in his second year of law school. He'll be the second youngest person. Another one finished 4-year college in 6 months, the whole degree. He went to Thomas Edison, where they work with AP tests, and they let him take 90% of his degree on exams, and he took one test a day, every day for 6 months, and one online class a week. And in 6 months, he had a bachelor's degree, became a missionary, learned Chinese in 3 weeks, and sold his colony when he was 40 for $38 million. So when people say, what do I need to know this? He made $38 million using what I taught him when he was 40. So it's not, no one wants to just learn. It's a knowledge-based economy. And everything you do is based on what you know. Now, I've read almost 30,000 books. So I don't know everything, but I know 30,000 books worth of data. So I can solve problems people can't solve. If you'd like, I could solve an unsolvable problem for you.
Gosh.
The meaning of life. You know, when you read about the Big Bang, it's this little tiny speck. The whole universe is the size of an electron. And you say to yourself, okay, it blows up and it gets bigger. Where does it go? If it's getting bigger, it's everything. So if everything is everything, where does everything grow when it's getting bigger? Because it's already everything. And I think I could show you a way to explain it. I want you to picture the tiny point of the universe when it's before it explodes. Picture it in your mind.
Yeah.
And see it explode and grow out all as big as it is now. And I want you to notice the infinitely tiny point and the very large universe we have now fit between your ears and your mind. If the universe is a manifestation of consciousness, really what the Bible says, there's a thinker that makes it happen. If it's a manifestation of consciousness, it can get bigger and bigger and bigger and still be the same size and fit between your ears. No matter how big it gets, it's always the same size. It's all consciousness. Now, that doesn't mean I'm right, but it's a lot better than I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. So I tell people it's not always about being right. Thomas Edison tried 10,000 times to find a filament to make a light bulb. And they asked him what it felt like to fail 10,000 times. He said, I never failed. I found 9,999 things I didn't want to use till I found the one I did.
Yeah.
So getting an answer is better than not. And even if it's the wrong answer, you'll eliminate it and find another answer till you find the right answer. And so my goal is to empower people to learn and understand and connect the dots. And if you'd like, I could show you how to read faster. One last skill.
That would be amazing. Yes, definitely.
So when we're done today, get a book you've read, preferably nonfiction. I want it to be so if you read the book now, you'd have nothing confusing. The words make sense. The ideas make sense. I want to make sure the only thing that could confuse you is how fast you're reading, not because it's quantum physics and no one understands it, or if it's Chinese and you can't read Chinese. We want to say the only reason I'm confused is I'm going too fast.
Yeah.
So now get a timer. You could use your phone or your watch or an egg timer. Read for a minute in the first chapter, at the first page. See how far you get, reading normal. And take a pencil and put a mark. So you've measured, this is how far I can read now. Now the magic. Go to the second chapter, take your hand and go one line at a time as fast as you can with your eyes following your hand. As long as you know what you're reading, speed it up and speed it up and speed it up till you don't. That's where it got too fast. Slow down just enough so the comprehension's there. And as fast as you can, one line at a time, for a minute or two. When you're done, go back to the first chapter and time yourself for a minute. And this time, do your hand thing as fast as you can comprehend, one line at a time. And the little mark that you had during the first trial, you'll pass it by 20 to 40%. Just doing that one change. That's the first step in a process to go 100 to 400% faster with good comprehension.
Yes, that's the whole point. There's no point doing it otherwise. You can't just say, "Yep, read that one." Well, what does page 53 say? I think, Howard, what you've just explained about those young people passing the bar and getting through college, and had they been failed by their education system and hadn't found you, what would have become of them? And how many people in our state prison systems have been failed by the education that they never received? And it's the Einstein thing, isn't it? You know, if you told a fish to climb a tree, it would think it was stupid because it couldn't do it. So many people are driven to violence and the wrong side of the law because of their frustration and their upset, and they feel like they're being labeled as stupid when they know they have intelligence, but they don't know how to express it and they don't know how to find out.
They're not make a living any other way. You're right. Well, when I was younger, after college, I became a yogi. I lived in an ashram on weekends, and I still believe in karma. And I feel what I've been given is an ability, but it's more important to me that you read 3 or 4 times faster than I read a page and a half a second. Because if there are millions and millions of people learning 2, 3, 4 times faster, think of all the solutions they'll find to problems like global warming and the violence we have in the world. So I don't believe I could solve every problem. I'm not naive. But if I could empower lots and lots and lots of people to learn and understand and make better choices, it could have an impact. It's not the only, not just me, but it's something I can do instead of looking at the news. And I don't think anyone watches the news and says there's too many smart people making too many good choices. So I look at that and say, I can make a difference. I can make more smart people, or people get smarter and make better choices. And those choices will impact everyone. And that's something I take a lot of gratification from. Having these kids do this thing. I had an 84-year-old read 3 books in 3 hours the day after I taught her. And to me, that's makes me feel good that I'm doing something with my life. It
Well,
isn't just look at me read. Who
no,
cares?
exactly. Yeah, that brings us full circle, really, Howard, because what Collaboration Global is about is bringing people together, because we have the belief that there are no problems out there that do not already have a solution. And it is about finding them, but finding them together and finding them by, the answer's already out there, whether it's in the written form or in video or whatever, but it's finding that information and coming together to get the people that understand what's going on to create the solution and come together and make a world a better place. And I think what you're doing, the journey that you have been on, you have probably crammed 10 lifetimes into your one, because of the speed and the awareness that you have around what you're doing and the knowledge that you've retained. I mean, do you find there's a difference between, just one last question, because I'm looking at the time and I realize we could talk for hours here, but one last question is, do you find over the years that you have slowed down in your learning, or do you find that age is irrelevant to, I mean, you've just kind of answered it with this 88-year-old.
I can't see like I did when I was 30, but I think I've gotten smarter because I have a bigger database. I'll give you one last thing to tantalize you. Would you like to see real magic, not a card trick?
Always.
Okay, magic is actually real. People don't understand what Hermes was, the god of magic. In Greek mythology, he was Mercury. And what it was is magic is turning your ideas into things. If you look around the room, everything you see that isn't a plant or a rock is a thought that someone had and made it into a reality. Your clothes, the chair you're on, the desk, the room you're in, an architect, how to envision it. What magic was and still is taking the ideas in our minds and finding the methods in the world to manifest that idea into a reality. And that's really what it's about, empowering people to get the information they need to turn their dreams into something tangible and real. So 1, they make a nice living and have a successful life. And 2, they make a better world because everyone now benefits by this new idea that's created an opportunity for other people, like the cell phone, going from a cell phone to an iPhone. It's a leap. Everyone saw a cell phone. Jobs saw a mini computer. He said, I'll put a monitor on the front and a chip in it. It'll still do phones, but it's more. And that's what I'm trying to do with people, is give their minds the ability to absorb more books, put it in here. And now when you're looking at a problem, all that data is there. And you're starting to see relationships that everyone missed, like jobs. And you see another way to do it that no one thought of before. And now you're a success, and everyone is benefiting from this new concept that you develop. That's my purpose. That's really why I joined. And I want to learn from other people what's their success and ideas. That's how you grow. It's never just about you. It's about collaboration. We can't all know everything. I'm never going to be a surgeon, but I'm glad there are people who are. And I'm not going to say I'm glad people are attorneys. They're not the funnest people to know, but we do need them because of other attorneys. But they're really fun people. I haven't found them to be the funnest. My attorney, by the way, was an assassin. He was in Vietnam at the CIA, and his plane went down in the jungle, and they captured him, and they tied him up. And when they went to sleep, he untied himself, strangled 3 people, and crawled back 100 miles through the jungle. That's a good person to have sitting next to you in a courtroom if you have a problem. It's not someone you want to see sitting on the other side.
No. Oh my goodness, some of the people that you know is incredible, Howard.
I'm very lucky. I feel fortunate. I've met famous people like Ron Howard, the producer. His daughter, Bryce, I believe is using my program. When I met him in LA at the airport, he asked me if it worked, and I sent it to him as a gift. So he wanted it for his kids. So I'm assuming she's his kid, so she must have gotten to it. But it makes me feel good to know that so many people's lives have been changed for the better. And my goal is to change more lives and do it through other people by collaborating with them through your website and helping them achieve what they want, and see what I can do to help them. And they can help me by reaching more people with what I do, and everybody wins.
Exactly. That's what I talk about all the time. It's not just a win-win, it's a win-win-win-win. It's for you, for me, for Collaboration Global, and for the planet, and for everyone that we come in contact with along the way. And there are some amazing collaborators within our community that need to have a conversation with you about possible collaboration and putting together your
Love that stuff. That's what I live for. You can't do it yourself. Look at Elvis Presley. He sang at country fairs until the Colonel figured out how to make him a star. He had the talent, but he didn't have the connections. And that's what collaboration is about. Connections. Real success in today's world is all about who you know, not just what you know. And it's through the collaboration with other people you achieve your full potential.
Yes. And also with the people that have the right heart set as you as well, the same mindset and heart set, whereby they're looking at it from love and how can I help people, rather than let's make a quick buck together and see how
right
screw someone into the ground with it. It's coming from a place of love, which we talk about all the time, in as much as if we can love our fellow human, whether they are the cleverest person on earth or whether they have, haven't got a clue what's going on in the world, they're still worthy of our support and our help in any which way we can.
Well, some of the metaphysics books say the two most important things to learn are a wisdom of love and a love of wisdom. The wisdom of love creates the right motivation because you're compassionate, and a love of wisdom prevents fanaticism, like the Inquisition, where I love you so much, I'm going to torture you to death so you don't go to hell. So there's a balance. So Buddha represents the love of wisdom, and Jesus represents the wisdom of love. They're the two figures in metaphysics that balance the two energies. There are others as well, but that's their primary role is one of teaching compassion and teaching understanding.
Yeah. And that is totally what we're about at Collaboration Global. And you just summed it up beautifully. Thank you. I love that scenario. Howard, if somebody wanted to contact you, or if they're interested in learning how to learn faster or read faster, or just in your whole schemes going on, what's the easiest way for them to connect with you?
Well, my email is Mr. Reader, Reader, MRREADER at MSN.com, MicrosoftNetwork.com. And you can also find me on Collaboration Global. And I'm always looking for people who want to work with me, and I can help, and that they can help me. I think it works both ways. I have programs they can profit from helping others get, and they may have something I can help others get as well. So it works both ways, that everyone wins. And that's how you make money in today's world. It's through contacts and other people like you. This is a contact, and you have a network. Everyone's network is a potential new place to go. And that's what it's about. It's building a network and then sharing with others.
Perfect. So if anybody would like to possibly meet Howard, I'm sure he'll be talking at one of our guest sessions soon. So if you wanted to come along to one of those, they're online. So anywhere in the world, you can come to that. We always have them on the last Tuesday of the month, apart from December, because people are a little bit busy at the end of December. You're very welcome. And you can find that, you can book up on there. You go to collaborationglobal.org, or go to Eventbrite and search for Collaboration Global, and you can find the booking link in there as well. And it won't be too long before we get Howard speaking at that event as well.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you again, Howard, for your time. I really appreciate learning more about you, and just for the tips that you've given us just to start the ball rolling is just like the potential from that alone. But to actually learn more about what you do and the programs that you do, I'm looking forward to hosting that at Collaboration Global as well. It's going to be a very exciting time.
Well, it shows you that sometimes the things that are the worst things in your life are the best. It's like a jewel. It needs to get against the grinding wheel to become a sparkling jewel. The pain I went through as a child helped me develop a skill, which is changing the world. So when I was a child, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But as an adult, I realized that that was a catalyst for something wonderful. And we often don't see when we're struggling that what we're struggling with is an opportunity that's going to change our lives for the better while the struggle is happening. But afterwards, when we look back, we realize that's what changed us and made us a better person.
Beautiful. And what a legacy you have to leave. It's phenomenal. I'm really proud to be part of that journey. So thank you for today. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks for that.
Thanks. In Thailand, they go Sawadee Ka. Thank you. It's really fun when you're there. The people are very friendly.
Yeah.